y'all would bear with us for a few minutes. I know we're running a little behind schedule. But this represents our 43rd year as an organization. And over this past 43 years, we have always held our conference in Fargo, Arkansas. So this is sort of non-traditional here. And we just got word. I know some have made their way here, and we're trying to rectify this situation now. But it's my understanding people have been going to Fargo for the event, and our board member, Mr. Bertha Thomas, happened to be there. So some of them have made their way. They're making their way this way. Now, there's unfortunately, they say if anything can go wrong, it will. But have to look at it also in a positive manner. I guess that means that Fargo definitely has a very clear identity in being the site for this event. And as they say, I'm gonna sort of go back and recapture a statement that Mr. Tillman, James Tillman, made once, and he gave reference to going home. It's always like going home. And this event, this annual event, every year, and you've done this. So like if people and members are coming together and coming back home, like a family reunion in certain ways. So if you have been dealing with your homes in that location and your folks move somewhere else, and you begin to tell your folks that you're moving. Now we didn't get to tell everybody, we've been running radio broadcasts and announcements and everything else because of that in sort of an anti-fashion. And also the fact that this is a very special occasion, for us on this for 43rd year of celebration, of you as individuals who've been our supporters and those who are members, and of those who are patriots and matriarchs, with the organization. So there's a reason for us being here, and there's nothing wrong with dealing with change. If the change is good. So we're hopeful that with this whole process, and as we do this for the first time, it is changed in a way, but it also will be bridging and putting together some stronger partnerships with the organization, both back with municipality, as well as other partners we work with over the years. So we bear with this for a few minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. And we try to rectify that situation in partner.
They got it.
Morning, good morning. Oh, y'all can sound better than that. Good morning. Y'all need to do better than the kids. The kids were more lively yesterday. They were like jumping. I love excitement. I know it's early in the morning. I know sometimes early in the morning I don't like to talk either, but since we're here, we're gonna go ahead and talk to one another. Is that agree? Yeah, that's agreeable. All righty, so we're gonna get ready to get started. We know that we are a few minutes behind. I am Lashika Miller, the Vice President of Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation, and we are elated to have all of you here with us. And we're expecting more to show up and fill in these tables. But while they are on their way, we're gonna go ahead and move forward. I'm gonna do the welcome and step in for our board chairman, Dr. Cornelius. In his absence, he will be here later this afternoon. And so I am going to also welcome you all here. So welcome to the 43rd Annual Conference and Membership Meeting for Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation. Many of you might have noticed that the venue this year is a little different. You might not be experiencing the allure of the historical buildings, the towering trees, the cattle fencing, the farm operations, but we promise to continue the tradition of providing the critical information needed to address the topics of the day. Our conference theme this year is prosperity with disparity. Our parents, grandparents, and many more before us fought long and hard for the prosperity we enjoy today. It is our duty to continue fighting until all remaining disparities are equalized, so our rural and underserved communities have equal access to funding, education, technology, healthcare, and all those opportunities needed to be productive citizens and communities. So sit back, get your notebooks ready, and be prepared to learn from today's speakers and presenters. Thank you for your attendance and your support. And again, welcome to ALFDC 43rd Annual Conference and Membership Meeting. All righty, well, I've done the welcome, and we're gonna move on with the opening prayer by Dr. Odell Carr. Give him a hand.
Would you pray, God, so mighty and so merciful, who's everywhere, always, at the same time. God who takes all human events and turns them over in his hands. We thank you. Thank you for our coming together. We thank you for a cause that shall live beyond us. God, we ask that you would now bring us in a harmony that only you can bring. Bless now the leaders of the Arkansas land. Touch this community and the surrounding area. Thank you for the heroes, those who have come before us to pave the way that we might be on site on this occasion. Touch us now, oh God, as only you can. And we shall be ever so careful to give you all the praise and thanks for all things. It is in your name that we pray and we say amen. Amen.
Okay, so next we will have our membership call. So those who are members of Arkansas Land and Farm, Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation, we would love for you all to stand at this moment. Those of you, we appreciate you all for becoming members of the organization. Those of you that are sitting, we encourage you to become a member. Alrighty, we're gonna move on with the conference overview by Dr. Calvin King.
Before Dr. Keaton comes, Mr. Michael Beck is gonna give us a selection.
Good morning to everyone also. And express my appreciation for all of you who are the signs say here. And all those who are members, as Ms. Miller gave the membership call, you're still here as supporting members, and we're greatly appreciative of that. And, let me say also, we're hopeful, there's so much room. When you look at the basis of membership, not just with this organization, but some may say the market itself that exists. You look at markets and people trying to capture certain percentage basis of markets, and just look at the consumer sales as an example, on Carson, Ford, General Motors, the rest of them, all of them trying to capture that market share that exists, from a buyer perspective. And membership, particularly in the African American community, membership is one that has one of the greatest gaps and opportunities as far as markets themselves are concerned, market opportunities. So I wanted to say that, and that's not just again with organizations, looking at other organizations, churches, and I'm sure the minister will say there's a great opportunity for membership at the churches. That song still here. Those of us and those who have traveled the journey over the years, just life journey itself. There's a lot to be said to say that we are still here.
That's right.
that we'll see all that we have gone through, all the crises, the COVID crisis, and other crises we have had in our lives, just to think about the fact that we are still here. And this conference is very record because, very special, because we're also giving tribute to those who are still here and that have contributed so much to the organization as a whole, that have allowed us to still be here. Both you as members, you as supporters, and you who have been advocates for what the organization stands for, and the organization stands for addressing the gap we're calling disparity in the context of our conference, or our theme for the conference itself. You know, one will say, and this is the overview of this event. One will say that a text itself, and that text being us with here being the theme of our conference. And I'm gonna tell you, the staff has really been on me. They have to watch me very, very closely. They know that I have a tendency of saying one thing and then a day or so later I change and say something else. After everybody agreed to one thing. I know Bob Nash knows that very well, but I've changed things based on conversation. But when we talk about, they say that a text without a context is a pretext. Am I right, brother? It's a pretext. Okay, so now I know the ministers know that it's a pretext. Okay, so if you look at the conference program at the base of the overview, you will see our text and the theme itself, that being the text, prosperity with disparity. And if you read on a little bit further, we also have tried to set forth, which does not give the full view of what the conference itself is about. I would say it is more of a pretext, having long-term improvement for addressing prosperity with disparity for the underserved and the unserved segments of the Black and other segments of the minority population. So we just look at that from a pretext perspective. And if you want to deal with the context of this conference and what the overall meaning of what the conference itself is about, I would say, look at the program. And either the intent of this conference from an overview perspective as our context for the various workshops that are being offered. And hopefully with these workshops, we'll tell you something about us or the organization and our still being here and working toward addressing the prosperity disparity that exists in our nation and our communities. And when I say it's addressing that, it is addressing from the perspective of the various workshops that are being offered. Now, I don't know if you have experienced a situation where you have, and when I say the overall context, that's everything from those who are being recognized here today, and you will read and see some of the statements that they have made. And in that, from that perspective, you know, they're talking about what the organization has done, what their experience has been, and also the issue that we address. Now, they say that accessibility is key to benefiting from resources that may be available to accessibility. And the lack of accessibility creates the gap that allows us to not benefit from the availability of both resources and achieving a level of prosperity that may exist for us. And I say that from this perspective, is that accessibility, now things may be accessible to you, but if you don't understand what it is, then it's not really acceptable, because I don't really understand that and how we can benefit you. But if I understood it and how it can benefit me, that accessibility then becomes a major resource. And of course, the benefits from that and how you utilize that to deal with this whole disparity that exists in our communities. So this is what the conference, this is what the resource is about. This is why the resource agencies are here. This is why the workshops are being presented. And this is what the workshop will be presenting to you. That opportunity for understanding the resources and the accessibility process of those resources, both for housing, community economic development, for business, grant programs, loan programs, across the board. USDA and the resources they offer is everything both from, if it was philanthropy, from a foundation, from that perspective, from in the grant program side, from the lending side, as well as opportunities, what I call equity startup, and expanding and creating new business and job opportunities in our local communities. That will be talked about also about rural development. It will be talked about from the housing perspective of rural development. Natural Resource and Conservation Service will be talking about things that affect us. I don't care whether you're farming or not. If you know, the fact that the sun said you still here, if you still here, then there are resources and there are things that are being done that's relevant to conservation practices that affect us. The fact that you still here, you breathe. You're breathing just from clean air, water, soil and water management, so that it's a resource, and understanding how those resources are beneficial is so important in our local communities, and specifically as it relates to you as a farmer. And other program opportunities that allow you to access other resources if you want to become a farmer, beginning farmer, and understanding what farming is all about now. Same thing with farm service agencies. The resources they have to offer, how those resources come down, and the benefits that they offer to us as a community. So that's the context basis of what we're going to be offering to you today as a participant in this 43rd annual conference. And hopefully you will benefit from it. In my closing point, let me just say this, I want to say two things. You know, I know y'all heard this old saying, ram in the bush. Now, you know, we had a ram in the bush, and I see our speaker has come in, but I am so thankful to have great friends with USDA itself, particularly NRCS. And I had called on a ram in the bush to fill in this morning for our speaker, but I see our speaker, Mr. Marcus, he's back here at the ride. Am I right? I saw him a few minutes ago. There he is, right? He is here. So I just want to say that I don't want to have two speakers on at the same time. You know, like I told you, my staff tell me all the time, leave the doc, he will create a situation that wasn't expected. You know, in a minute. So I didn't want to do that. And I've used up my time and someone else's anyway. No, now, in my closing point, I want to say this. My dad will say sometimes, boy, you have sight, but you can't see. You got sight, but you can't see. Until I became a grown man, I didn't understand why would he say stuff like that to me. It's so intimidating. Got sight, but I can't see. And so as I look back over my life and get to the point where I am now, I've had certain experiences. And I'm gonna give you an example. Some of you may have heard the terminology, if you were on a farm, been around, you heard people make the statement and say, do you have a monkey wrench? Have any of y'all heard that monkey wrench? Okay, you heard that monkey wrench, right? So Dad tells you go in, son, go over to the shed and bring me the pipe wrench. I go to the shed, look for it. I forgot to ask him what the pipe wrench look like. Okay. So you go and you look and you don't see it. Go back out. Dad, I didn't see it. I said, son, the pipe wrench is right over there. What case is it? This one. Well, the message here, people, is such. And then he said, okay, let me go get it myself. So he didn't even, don't you know what a hydrant is? That's a mucky wrench. But you didn't tell me you get the mucky wrench. You told me to get the mucky wrench. What's the hydrant wrench? So, you know, even meetings like this and then having the workshops and telling the workshops themselves is to make sure that sometimes the communication is very clear on what it's there and how to access it. You know, versus folks say, yeah, USDA. And say, well, okay, USDA, okay, well, I know that's the government. Okay. And so when I'm trying to get a house. So I've been in the bank, can't get no finance. But USDA work with the banks. Same thing with farming. And it goes on and on. So I just want to say that I'm gonna sit down now and bring forth the next person to introduce the speaker, Ms. Barbie Irving, and she's Director of Public Relations, Marketing Administrative Services for the organization. I probably did something wrong just then too, but I know Ms. Phyllis, she's the MC. But anyway, they said, give them a mic, let them have it long enough. And rest assured, he's gonna go off script. Is that okay, Ms. Miller? Okay, Ms. Irving, thank you very much.
Morning, everyone, and I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome to our 43rd annual conference. It's a pleasure to stand here before you. Every day is a new day, full of opportunities. So let's take a moment to reflect on the aspirations and our goals here today and make the best of it. This morning, I'm going to introduce to you Marcus Eubanks. He's a journalist and a photographer. The Emmy Award-winning photographer and journalist who hosted the only film festival in Arkansas with African-American lives as a focal point, the Jubilee Film Festival. Marcus Eubanks is a versatile professional in the broadcast media, production, video streaming, and photography fields. He performed as a reporter and a videographer for multiple local news outlets. After mastering the job requirements of those positions, he switched gears within the field and started to make an impact with his eye on photography. As of September 2018, Marcus reached the pinnacle of his field as he was awarded the Emmy Award for a documentary style story on the Elaine Massacre, which occurred during the summer of 1919, known as the Red Summer. He is also the owner of the video streaming channel, Regigrant TV, which is geared toward the providing space for creativities to have their work seen all over the world. I'd like to introduce to you this time, Marcus Eubanks. Let's give him a hand.
Hello. Well, let me just first say, as I look out and when I was first given this opportunity to catalog, if you will, tell the story of the Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Along the way, I was blown away. Meeting people like Bob Nash and Ollie Neal and Freeman McKendra, Berlin Jones. I didn't know how steeped in history this organization was and what all they have done for people that look like us across the nation, if you will, especially as to Bob Nash actually ascending to DC and doing the work that he did there for African-American farmers as a part of USDA. I was in awe. Basically, I was thankful for the opportunity to tell a story like this. Now, what I will say is I noticed and remember a lot of these faces in the room. I've been to your homes or to your property to talk to you. Now, this is a preview of a documentary that I'm working on for the Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation, but just want to preface it, everybody's not in it, so don't be mad at me. Trying to tell the story, just trying to tell the story. So, I could sit up here and lament all day, but I just want to say as a documentarian, to be able to tell this history is an honor for me. You guys see the screen okay? Can everybody see the screen okay? Okay. Can we dim the lights a bit? I'll just say this, I hope this preview does justice for the tireless work that you guys have done. I guess I'm kind of like Doc Hall.
Be as slave ships or as explorers from the continent of Africa, we as a people have always been connected to the land. We lived along riverbeds and crops, which evidence still exists today at places like Tall Take Mounds, Lonoke County. At the point when our ancestors were enslaved, the sweat of their brows translated into enormous amounts of generational wealth for the descendants of those who owned the land. But after slavery officially ended, many Blacks realized their dreams of becoming landowners. At its height, in 1910,
We should have it going in a few minutes.
For our entire for our entire existence in this country and centuries before our ancestors arrived in the Western Hemisphere via slave ships or as explorers from the continent of Africa. We as a people have always been connected to the land. We lived along riverbeds and grew crops, which evidence still exists today at places like Tall Mounds in Lonoke County. At the point when our ancestors were enslaved, the sweat of their brows translated into enormous amounts of generational wealth for the descendants of those who owned the land. But after slavery officially ended, many Blacks realized their dreams of becoming landowners. At its height, in 1910, Blacks owned between 16 and 19 million acres of rural farmland. Today, 90% of that land no longer belongs to those families. So what happened and what's being done?
When I grew up on a farm. My great grandfather bought 300 acres of land in Miller County for $9.90 an acre.
Bob Nash recalls the blatant racism.
But I viewed firsthand when I went down with my grandfather as a very young child to the USDA offices talking about loans. And I remember distinctly the white agent saying, you have to wait till the white farmers get their loans done, and you come back later. I was very young. I mean, like 12, 13 years old, 14 years old. And it just hit me. I didn't quite understand it then, but as years went by, and he was fortunate enough, he worked hard, and he kept that farm.
Nash and a group of rural Arkansans, including Dr. Calvin King, set out with a mission to right some of the wrongs that led to the Black families losing their land.
Calvin had this idea, and he's a phenomenal individual with a lot of vision. And he knew of people in the desert that lost their land.
You had the existence of cooperatives that had been there from my childhood, elementary school coming out, that I had connected back with and say, well, how do we make this thing better? Thomas Vaughn, was one, very much so engaged. He knew everybody across the board, was working back with AM&N College, extension, program division.
Several of us got together and founded the Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation with the express goal of reducing the amount of land being lost by Black farmers through things like tax sales, adverse possession, unfair foreclosures, and just a lack of support by USDA. And we wanted to get in there and help them keep that land.
Being a member is just like coming home. We're all a part of it, like a family. If we stay in, we can continue to grow. A.J. Hancock. Events like the Elaine Massacre in Elaine, Arkansas, theft of land in Rosewood, Florida, and the bombing of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, contributed to the loss of land as a resource. Individuals like Ephraim Lewis, Erland Jones, Reverend W.C. Timms, Wilbur Peer, and Freeman McKendra all had connections to the land, having grown up on farms, and were very familiar with the families losing their land.
And I use the term legal theft. Legal theft. For an example, you could move to California and be sending your tax money back each year to the county tax collector. But someone living in Miller County could go and start working your land. You're in California. You're not interested in coming back, but you're paying your taxes. This person goes to work in your land, and there's a process called adverse possession, where that person, after a certain number of years, could own your land. That's the law of the land. Own your land just because they're going and working. You haven't been there.
In order to be effective, ALFDC needed a base of operation. The organization found a place that would serve as an inspiration for their goals moving forward. They bought 277 acres in Fargo, Arkansas, previously owned by Floyd Brown, visionary. who started the Fargo Agriculture School in 1920. One of the mottos of the Learning Academy was, "The best is yet to come," a bit of foreshadowing for the work that would be done by the new owners.
That was like the untold story of outreach. Floyd Brown had formed a meeting down here, and all these folks was connecting back to each other, so all kind of connecting one time. Yeah, when he was starting and having those meetings, that was from the school sample, but outreach. And then they were having still other meetings. So it's education again, it's outreach also. Same thing Floyd Brown was doing, and part of his vision and what he was doing then. It is education, it is related to agriculture. It is about, environmental practices, even more so now.
A lot of what ALFDC did back in the early years carried on and had an impact on what we did in Washington at USDA.
One of the actions that brought more notoriety to the organization was the Pickford versus Glickman case that ended up being a class action lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture.
The letter that was the kingpin in kicking that lawsuit off was written to one of Calvin's clients, or one in Allen Steps. The letter was from a high official in USDA who, for some reason, blacked out and made the mistake of writing him the truth. But he said, we didn't do this and we didn't do that, and our rules really call for, and while there's some discretion.
Ollie Neal, former board member of the ALFDC, attorney, and appellate court judge, represented farmers who were part of ALFDC and knows the uphill battles government offices made for Black farmers.
The thing they put on you, make it impossible for you to succeed. Insufficient funds, extremely late funds, extremely late, not just, if you got some money in April, you could get in a little quick, get in some little late cotton. So that's what it meant to be. It meant something they used it. It was a program that on paper looked real good, especially beneficial to people that we represented. But the way they administered it, it was a roadmap to the folks losing the land they had, because they end up not producing enough to pay what they need to pay. Get deeper and deeper on the loan. Eventually USDA would foreclose.
At stake is the survival of Black-owned land and the future participation of Blacks in agriculture in Arkansas and the country. Ethan Lewis. People have confidence in ALFDC because they see the results, not just hear about them. Harrison Locke. Through the 80s, ALFDC expanded their scope from land retention to advocacy and training. Evelyn Bryant, a former board member.
At first, I was just filling in because my husband was on the board and he had to leave because he was just too busy working. So I got appointed in his place. And I was just sort of filling in and getting a grip on what was going on. But I understood that they were helping small farmers to know what to do as far as their finances was concerned, getting finances, and then how to best plant a crop, how to produce a better yield on their crops. And so then I understood their purpose and how they were helping small communities and small farmers.
The Bryant family was not just connected to the organization on the administrative side, but also as a client.
There's a lot of farm families that I know that took the advice of ALFDC, and they had good crops. And there are some that left an inheritance for their children, because we have a son, Joe Bryant III, that's still farming. Even though he went through all this with us, he was determined that he was going to farm and he was going to make it work, and he's still doing it. And the advice that is given out, we take it, we hold on to it.
In 1990, the New York Times recognized the Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation. That same year, the USDA gave the organization their partnership award. In addition, Calvin King was given the MacArthur Foundation's Genius Award. but the organization's national influence reached its pinnacle when William Jefferson Clinton was elected as the 42nd President of the United States.
At USDA, you didn't have any black assistant secretaries. When you put Mike Espy in, he brought in assistant secretaries and undersecretaries. The top people who run the department. But that was just a culture shock for there were 125,000 people who worked for USDA. The people at the very top, we had never had any blacks running those divisions, big divisions. I ran the rural development division. I had 12,000 employees and an $8 billion a year budget. And we made sure me and the other assistant secretaries and undersecretaries made sure that money was broadly sent out across areas where it never been done before. So again, that's the impact that ALFDC had on what we did up there. And it was a culture shock, but because we were there and we were in charge, we made it happen. And it saved thousands of acres of land across the rural South.
But even with all the national publicity, ALFDC is still a grassroots organization.
I like the business part, actually. I know this whole thing is agricultural, but I think it's good to know about entrepreneurship and the ups and downs of it, because even though it's not very like common, entrepreneurship is like one of those things where everybody dreams of doing it.
Taraji Chiyomi is a student in the ALFDC Excel program, which introduces high school students to business, but also agriculture.
Agriculture is one of those work fields that isn't really focused on in society. It's like we eat every day, but we don't care where it comes from. We don't really care about people who work in soil every day in order to get that food onto our plate and into our stores, the grocery stores. I feel like it's good to have a knowledge because, you know, one day you might need to grow your own food and you wouldn't have a clue what to do. Or one day you need to figure out how to make your own money and nobody's hiring. And if you have a dream to make your own business, you need to be able to how to get that first step in. So it's good to have this type of knowledge.
Chiyomi is a seed being planted for the future yield of Blacks in agriculture. But until the harvest, Brian understands there's still work to be done.
All they got to do is be determined that they're gonna hold on to the information they receive. And continue to fight. I'm fighting now. I'm not farming now, but I'm still fighting for the rights of young Black men and young Black women that want to farm. And I will continue to. God take me out of here.
I think about the words of a great African king when I think about ALFDC. And this king was describing the work that was being done by some people. He said, "Your working deeds are for some who are dead, a few who are living, and many more yet unborn who will inherit a brighter future and more land for their relatives and descendants than ever before."
So the overall goal and scope of what we want to accomplish with the documentary, one is a historical aspect, to let people know globally and around the United States the type of work that actually has been done here in Fargo, Arkansas, by Arkansas. But the other goal is to make sure that these stories aren't told by somebody else that may not have the best interest of those who they depict in mind. So thank you guys.
want to thank Steve Banks for the presentation. I think he did a wonderful job capturing the essence of Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation and its history. We're gonna move on and we're going to take what time is it? It's break time, y'all. We're gonna go ahead and take a break. That's what's on our agenda. And I'm sure at this point, everybody could use a break. So we're gonna rally back up in about 15 minutes. All right. If you can during this break, there are some vendors in the back. Please visit their tables. Thank you.
Yes.
I know that everybody's time is valuable, right? My time is valuable, so I'm sure your time is valuable. So before you take your seat, you might not wanna be in this room. We're gonna have Mr. Larry Lofton, he's gonna give the workshop logistics. There will be different workshops in different, rooms, so, Mr. Larry.
Have two workshops set up. Okay, we have two workshops set up. One is to the rear, and one is, you go out to the lobby, and the door on the left will be a workshop. Now, many of you have come to learn about USDA programs and services. And we have a staff here today, personnel here today, that's gonna explain what USDA does. The workshop for number one, to the rear, NRCS, FSA, they will cover EQIP, CSP, and other interests. The financial resources opportunities for rural and urban farmers, ranchers, veterans, and forests. Many of you are interested in their services and programs. Workshop number two, USDA building community property through rural and urban community economic development. If you're interested in rural development, community development, then you should go to workshop number two. You go out to your lobby, through the door there, the exit sign, go out to the lobby, and the door on your left, the glass door on your left. The workshop number two. Okay? Thank you. Workshop number one is to the rear.
Always a pleasure. Dina Cooperhead, Huntington Farm. Yeah, you featured that. Yeah, they're both in physical therapy. Yeah.
We have a land now. Now you all.
In workshop one, we're getting ready to get started. I am the workshop title, Financial Resource Opportunities for Rural and Urban Farmers, Ranchers, Veterans, and Foresters. And I am your facilitator this morning, Jamie Williams. I am farm advisor for Arkansas Land Community Development Corporation. And we have some awesome speakers here this morning. Having Alvin here was able to make it, but he has sent someone. We have
and Alvin, USDA Natural Resource and Conservation Services. Equip Corey Cornelius. Corey, raise your hand. And we have USDA Farm Service Agency with George Washington, our state liquor director. Will be here, but he has been, our economic director, Rod Woods. And I'm gonna ask you all to hold your questions, until, the speaker, finish. And, our workshop description, our workshop session will provide conference for equity building for prosperity to participant and rural and urban farms, beginning farmers, ranchers, and foresters with conservation and production agriculture, financing and programs resource information that offer individuals access to financial opportunities to address the prosperity disparity with the underserved minority segments of rural communities and rural and urban farming population. The session will also address how air property can serve as a barrier for resource opportunity. And our first speaker. Oh, got Mr. Williams here. I'm sorry. He's standing in for Al. I'm sorry.
Good morning. Y'all program may say Alvin Pier? Not Alvin Pier. My name is Kennard Williams. I am the currently I am the state outreach coordinator for Arkansas. Today, I just got to give a brief on USDA NRCS Kennard. Just a little background, since I'm not Alvin, y'all don't know Alvin. Everybody know Alvin, you may not know me. So I am a UAPB graduate. I've been with the agency going on right on 30 years. My last couple jobs, 14 years in Hazen, Prairie County. District conservationist there, soil conservationist in several county, also state, started off in California, 5 years. My last previous job, I was the district conservation in Pulaski County, where I served up until this present job as state outreach coordinator this week, started this week. All right, now NRCS, I don't know if I'm just gonna give a brief summary of NRCS. As most people know, our mission is help the people, help the land. And what we do, our mission is to go out and try to help our farmers conserve our natural resources, the soil, the water, and plants, animals. And we always have to add that factor, human factors. So we always have to add it in, put it in there. Now, I will say this, ALCDC is one of our partners. NRCS, we have, over the years, we have several different programs, Equip, CSP, which Mr. Corey and Ms. Sherry will take care of those and go into detail and depth with those programs, but we couldn't do our job without our partners. We have great partners with NRCS, conservation districts, and the partners like ALCDC, one of our great partners to help get the information out to everyone, to all our farmers and producers. It'd be impossible to do it by ourselves. CSP, which is one of our largest conservation programs, over 80 million in CSP. And you start looking at Equip is another one of our largest program, and it's broken up into different categories. With Mr. Corey, we'll talk about that some today. We do have a new initiative as well that we are looking at and talking about, the small urban initiative. When USDA started last year, 2023, also going on 2024 this year. And you start looking at seasonal high tones, cover crops. You look at low tones, mulching, pollinators. Pollinators is very important. I think a lot of producers, I do know several producers in this room, are growing a lot of vegetables and produce. You have to have pollinators if you want to grow produce. And it's very important, it's key to the production. NRCS cover those practices, conservation practices that help producers to accompany that. Crop rotation is very important, but the small urban initiative is a big program that tries to help be sustainable. Food supply, be sustainable for your production and operation. I won't get into the details of those programs. I also would like to recognize our state conservation because he's the one that support us and make sure things happen. Mike Sullivan, if you don't mind staying, Mike Sullivan, so everybody in the room can see the producers land on. All right, I won't hold you up. I know y'all want the nuts and bolts of what the program, how they work. We're gonna start off with Corey Cornelius on equip, then we'll come to Miss Sherry, and then Mr. Rogers will take us home with FSA.
Thank you, Bernard. Can everyone hear me okay? I know my voice won't be here. But good morning. My name is Corey Cornelius. I am the equip program manager on the Arkansas NRCS program staff, and also currently I am an active assistant state conservation programs. And what my expectation is today is try to explain what our equip program is and some of the funding opportunities that we may have in the state of Arkansas. And always excited to be here. Thank you, Dr. King, for the invitation. We're always excited to be here, give information, opportunity to help all our producers and clients in the state of Arkansas. Real short background, I'm a native of Helena, Arkansas, born and raised there. Graduated from UAPB, and I've been with the agency nearly 20 years now. So started as a trainee and worked my way up to where I am now. And I'm really happy and excited with the position I have now, because there's a passion that I have is to make sure that our producers, especially our small minority producers here in the state of Arkansas, get the assistance that you need and desire. I had a presentation and I'll just go through it a little bit, just want to leave time for questions. Actually had a nice slide with Ms. Burke Thomas in it. So sorry I won't be able to say that. But EQUIP, that's the acronym that stands for Environmental Quality Incentive Program. It's one of our largest programs here in the agency. Here in the state of Arkansas, it's been real successful over the years. Just give some statistics for FY23. With the EQUIP program, we actually obligated a little over $70 million just for producers and landowners here in the state of Arkansas for the last fiscal year 23. So there is a great opportunity for all producers, small or large, here in the state with this program. And the program basically is designed to provide financial assistance to any of your operations here in the state, whether that's you're a small, urban produce farmer, large row crop farmer, small row crop farmer, whether you graze and you have a grazing system for livestock, or you're a forestry producer, or you grow pollinators. We have what we call conservation practices, where we pay financial assistance. You carry those out on your farm to address whatever resource concerns you may have on your farm. So the way EQUIP works, the background of our agency, before we was a financial agency, we started with technical decisions. So that's where we like to continue to start first, is when we go out, we meet with you on the farm, And we discuss what issues, what problems, what things you may want to see on your farm. That's what we call our conservation plan and our technical assistance. So that's generally where we like to start. We like to start there, get an idea of what is going on the farm, what you may need, what you see on the farm, and we like to start with our plan, purpose, our technical assistance. From there, that's when we work with you one-on-one to see if there's any financial assistance that we may be able to provide with our EQIP program and our stewardship program as well as we start to go through. But the way EQIP works is once we start there, there's what we call an application process. There's an application form, and we've actually got it reduced down to 3 pages. So it's not like you're coming into the office and you're filling out a book. You're actually filling out 3 pages to get started with this program. So you fill out the 3-page application, just basic information about your operation, about whether you own the land, lease it, or any of that information. And then from the application phase, we do what we call an assessment and ranking. That's when the employees in the county service center that you may be located in, they'll go through an assessment phase from their initial plan. Started first, assess your application, and then we have what we call a ranking criteria ranking period. So basically, in the ranking criteria ranking period is where we rank the application based on the concerns that you have on the farm, the practices that you're applying for, and then some of the priorities that we have designed in the state where your application fits. So EQIP is a competitive program. So you're actually competing against all your peers, all your landowner farmers that apply. And the ranking process is what we use to basically start when we make selections. So we may have a priority to where the ranking score will start from the top, or we'll start in a certain category in the area with the ranking process. But it is competitive, but we do have several different categories where, depending on what you qualify for as a producer, it may be less competitive than certain criteria. I'll go through some of the funding opportunities here in a minute. We talked about the conservation program, the plan, we talked about the application, we talked about the evaluation ranking. So let's just say now we've at that point and we've made a selection. So we've contacted you and say, Mr. Thomas, the application that's been selected. Now we want to work with you to develop a contract. So at that stage, we'll come back with you and we'll basically design a contract and a plan based on what you need on the farm and what the financial assistance practice that we may have. So we'll develop a contracting plan. You'll sign it, well, you review it. If you agree to it, you sign it. And then we enter into what we call equal contract, where we pay financial assistance to whatever practice that we may have in the contract that you need on your farm. And I'll go through some of the most popular current practices that we have here in the state that we pay assistance on. So how is EQIP beneficial? Like I said, it helps provide assistance on the farm for the conservation practices that you may need. And as a minority historically underserved participant, that financial assistance may be up to 90%. So we can pay up to 90% And we have what we call a flat rate. So what that means is each conservation practice, each component of it, we have a determined flat rate for that practice. So, as a historically underserved participant, and I'll go through what that means here in a minute, you could get up to 90% financial assistance for that practice. So one of the most common here in the state for small minority producers is high tone. You know, a lot of us in the room understand what high tone is and see that how it works. You could get assistance for a high tone where it may cost you $20,000 to. In that situation, we may pay up to $18,000 to help with the assistance. So that's kind of an example of how the 90% works. So we may pay up to 90%, and then you'll be only responsible for that other 10% to install that practice. So just a little bit about the eligibility. Anyone that's considered an ag producer, landowner, as long as you producing the crop, share the risk of the crop, or on the land where there's a crop being grown or livestock or forestry, you're eligible for it. As long as you're an ag producer. And one of the initial steps that you do when you apply for EQIP, you also work with a farm service agency, Mr. Woods work, and you go in and you basically determine yourself as an ag producer, USDA. That's the first part of the eligibility for EQIP. It's determining that you're an ag producer in the USDA climate. Land eligibility. Any private owned land is eligible for it. In some situations, private land is eligible, and also tribal lands are also eligible for it. Then we have what we call a resource concern. On your farm, you must have the capability to address at least one resource concern on your farm. So that's the other, one of the other eligibility for people. So there's an applicant eligibility of land and resource concern eligibility. I mentioned the historically underserved, and that's broke up into several categories. There's one that's called a limited resource farmer rancher, and it is based strictly on income. There's a website that you go to, and then it'll ask you 2 questions about your household income and your gross farm savings. You can self-certify that you qualify yes to both of those questions. You consider the limited resource farmer. So in that, it's a specific number. It all depends on where you live, which county you're located in. That number could be different. So you work with the USDA staff, the NRC staff in that office, and they can steer you to that website. And all you have to do is, if you can answer yes to both of those questions, you consider the limited resource farm rancher. Then there's a beginning farm rancher. All that means is that you farm less than 10 consecutive years. You farm less than 10 consecutive years, you are considered a beginning farm rancher. Then we have what we call a socially disadvantaged farm rancher, and that's based on your national origin. If you consider it national minority by origin, you consider it socially disadvantaged farm rancher. And then the last one we have is a veteran farm rancher, and it kind of can go with any of the other 2 categories. It's based on if you served military service and you've operated a farm less than 2 years, and you have a military discharge that's not dishonorable. Any of those that you may qualify for, that's what we call historically underserved categories. You know, with the historically underserved categories, we do have additional funding opportunities just for historically underserved participants. Applying for equal. Generally, what we do nationwide, not just Arkansas, nationwide, we'll announce sign-up period. So, for instance, for the state of Arkansas, we just announced a sign-up period for EQUIP and CSP general sign-up a couple days ago. So, what we do is we announce that sign-up, and there's a certain period where we'll announce and we take applications for that fiscal year. Now, that doesn't mean you can't sign up anytime. EQUIP is a program where you can sign up anytime, any day, continuously. What we do is we announce a period where we announce a cutoff for that fiscal year, or whatever that period may be. And if you so happen to sign up before that period or sign up after that period, we still consider your application, but it just makes you be considered in another funding cycle. And we always have different funding cycles that come. And we announce those funding cycles every time we have one. So when you're applying for EQUIP, and I would recommend anytime that you think and you feel you need assistance on your farm, just go visit your local USDA office. And then the staff at the local USDA offices can tell you what's available. You can still apply. And if we hadn't announced a sign-up period at the time, then you can apply. We hold your application, and we bring it to the next funding cycle. So that's generally how applying for the departments. Mentioning conservation practices, with cropland, we pay a lot of assistance on what we call management practices. Practices that's designed to address soil health and also irrigation. But also we pay assistance on, I mentioned high tunnels. We pay assistance on different types of pipelines, any kind of systems you may need for the farm. We more than likely have a practice and some financial assistance that fits whatever practices and needs you have on the farm. Same with pasture, the same with forests, urban setting, wildlife setting. We have different conservation practices that we pay assistance on that fits the need. One of the big things that we're focused on, we call it the big three in our agency, is racial and social equity, urban agriculture, and what we call now, you hear a lot of this now, climate. So we have a lot of assistance for these three priorities. And climate smart is where we have practices set aside to address greenhouse gas emissions and to reduce the carbon footprint in our nation and in our state. So we have different practices that we have just designed to address that. So, and then with urban agriculture, we have practices such as the high tunnel. We have the practice with raised beds now, so we pay assistance on that. And irrigation needs, management needs. We pay a lot of assistance on that with our urban initiative, urban small scale initiative. And then racial and social equity is where we have set aside different funding opportunities to make sure that we are spending on funding equity right across the nation. And to kind of briefly talk about some funding opportunities we have in Arkansas, we have what we call a local led conservation, and we've committed within Arkansas years to make sure that we provide assistance locally, strictly to the counties, all 75 counties in the state of Arkansas. So we have a local led initiative where you have priorities just locally in whatever county you may be in. So you have a local led work group that consists of farmers, conservation district, board members, extension agents, any other local partners, farmers there in the county. They get together once a year and determine local priorities in that local county. And then from those priorities, we've committed Arkansas and RCS to provide assistance locally just for those counties. Then we have statewide categories that, depending on where you are, you can fit in those categories. As I mentioned, we have our urban small farm initiative. That's a statewide initiative that we have. We have different initiatives that fit forestry producers. We have a new program tied to EQIP called Conservation Incentive Program, where we pay assistance here in Arkansas for grazing pasture producers that may have a need for prescribed grazing, different kind of practices that you need to address your grazing system, livestock. We also have assistance for wildlife. We have assistance for irrigation. We have a groundwater initiative where we're paying assistance on surface water irrigation projects, trying to reduce the amount of water that's depleting aquifers here in the state. So we have an initiative where we're pushing surface water irrigation. And then we also have some national initiatives where we pay assistance on energy, organic, any organic producers that we may have in the state, whether you're certified already or you transition to the certified, we have assistance for that as well. And then we have the new kid on the block, the inflation reduction. That is another round of assistance that we have for EQIP and CSP2. And that was a law that was signed by President Biden in 2022, where it's providing $19 million over the entire period for it. And it's not a separate program, it's just another funding source for EQIP and CSP and some of our Farm Bill programs. And the IRA is tied directly to the climate smart, I mentioned earlier, to those mitigation practices that's used to address the carbon footprint in the nation. So to make a long story short, we have a lot of assistance here in the state of Arkansas with the EQIP program. And we spent 70 million last year. We're looking to spend that much again. Still, Arkansas is one of those states. If we try best to spend it, we try best to help our producers and our clients in the state. So from there, we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned something about the housing and the cost, and you said that you all could potentially cover up to $18,000 of that cost. So are those costs reimbursable or are those advanced payments?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, and yes. Yes to both your questions. I used the $20,000 as example.
Yeah.
As a historically underserved producer participant, and you enter into a contract agreement with us, let's just use high tone as the example. As you qualify for a historic underserved participant, we do have what we call advanced payment with EQIP, where you can receive up to 50% of the cost that we have in the contract for a high tone. And we can award you that in advance. And what you'll do once you receive the advance, you have 90 days to expend those funds and complete that practice. So yes, that is available on any of our conservation practices is you qualify as a historic landmark participant. So yes, we can advance up to 50% of what we've allotted in the contract to go ahead and start that practice.
Under your forestry program, how does that work as to get started? I mean, fill out application, there's land, have to do surveys and things of this nature. Once you submit the application. It's about the forestry program.
The question is, you have a forest, you have your forest land on a forest producer.
Yeah.
You apply for the program, you actually, does it have to be surveyed?
Yeah.
No, sir. We don't actually do any land surveying. What we do is strictly addressing the concern and need that you have farm. So if you apply, you're looking for financial assistance, not necessarily surveying. Let's just say you need assistance on replanting trees, or you need assistance on scrap burn, fiber rate, or even forest kind of improvement where you could go in and get some undesirable trees or something to that nature. That's where we come into play. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a survey. What we do is we work with you on your control of land, whether you own it or you lease it. One of the things you want to do is, if you own the land, make sure you bring your deed into the Farm Service Agency to where they can recognize your farm in the county. And actually recognize giving the farm number. Sure, Mr. Wood touched on that with the farm number is.
For me to go along with that question, in getting started about the importance of having a management plan is one of those steps to getting service.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Brownlee is saying as a forestry producer, one of the most important things you want to do is make sure you work with forester and get your forest management plan. What that plan does is tell you exactly what you have on the farm, some of the needs that you may have on forestry services that you need. And I believe the Arkansas Forestry Commission can provide that free of charge. Is that correct?
The plan, yes.
Yeah, so you can be in touch with your state of Arkansas Forestry Association, and they have rangers and county foresters that can provide you with forestry management plan.
Okay, so in order to get into that business or producing forestry or trees, you have to go get that step done first.
You don't necessarily have to have that step done first to apply for assistance, but at some point we do require forest management plan to make sure that the assistance need that we pay lines up with what you actually need on the farm. So it is highly recommended that you have a forest management plan.
And also, are those applications held the same way as for the other program? Or equipment, you know, if you turn it in, you might not get approved this year or next year, or whatever.
And like I said earlier, again, the program is competitive. So it's not guaranteed funds. But as a historically unserved participant, there is other funding categories where the competition is less. So you may have less competition when you're applying for the program and certain funding opportunities.
Okay, one other person, if you apply and get accepted, is there a deadline for you to start the process?
They're usually, what we do when we develop a contract is we develop a schedule. So we develop a schedule of operations of how you plan to implement the practices and the components of your contract. So the first deadline, we'll say deadline, but it's not actually a deadline. The policy says you have to have something completed within the first 12 months. Okay. Not saying you have to complete the entire contract, but you do have to complete a practice contract within the first year, first 12 months. Now, we do have some flexibility. We understand things don't go as planned in farming. So we do have flexibilities to where we can do modifications and extensions based on the situation and scenario of the contract. Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker.
And hear you.
Wildlife program, well, assistance we provide wildlife. We provide, when Mr. Williams talking about pollinators, that's one of the big conservation practices. We provide assistance on wildlife. We also do different type of other plantings for wildlife, native grasses, shrubs, and things that you may need there. And also different kind of management practices that help build up the wildlife habitat. So we have a variety of practices that we have on wildlife. So if you have a specific idea of how you want to address wildlife habitat, whether it's quail, deer, rabbits, turkey, we consider any wildlife in the state of Arkansas. So we do have a variety of things that we can provide assistance for wildlife. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, could you, refresh us with the, inflation?
Inflation reduction,
Yeah.
we use the acronym IRA, inflation.
And then, tell us who qualifies it and how does it work?
What we doing, the Inflation Reduction Act is just a separate funding opportunity that we have with farming programs. And it's basically directly tied to climate smart mitigation, climate smart agriculture policy. What that means is we're using practices that we pay assistance on with the IRA to mitigate greenhouse gas and reduce the carbon. So there's a list of practices that we pay assistance on that we consider mitigating to greenhouse gases. One of the challenges we have with the state of Arkansas is we're using the IRA assistance to align with the priorities that we have in the state of Arkansas. So we currently right now working strategies of how to make the IRA assistance work for the state of Arkansas. The strategies of a different type, because we want to spread it. We don't want to just focus on one area. We want to focus on everything that we can do to address the problem. So right now we're looking at areas of soil health, areas of forestry, wildlife, and each one of those categories, whether it's energy, even grazing, each one of those categories, there are a suite of practices that go to address mitigation. That are mitigating practices to address those greenhouse gases. So we have, and we put out some information. We got more information coming, basically on how our groups in the state of Arkansas. We just announced the initial sign up, but we have some more sign up coming. I want to mention this real quick. We do have a funding opportunity called ACNAP. Basically, the way ACNAP works is we can announce, sign up, you can apply, and that same announcement we have what we call a threshold. So when you apply, go to the field service center based on your assessment need on your farm. If it meets that threshold that we announced and sign up, then we can go directly from your application to the contract. And that's just, it's just a process that's different than how we generally do our contracts. It means we can do immediate funding if you qualify for it. So IRA is one of those one of those funding opportunities that we incorporate into that process. So we have another sign up that's coming to explain what guidance and then what we're doing is with our rate and that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, ma'am, it's the USDA office in the county. So depending on where your farm is, where you're located, there's a USDA office in that county. So that's what we call field service center. It is your USDA office. And generally, the USDA office has an RCS office, and have a farm service.
On the forest claim, is there a minimum forest acreage on the forest?
No, our programs, we don't discriminate by size of farm. So whether you have a tenth of an acre or you have 10,000 acres, we can provide assistance. So there's no minimum. That's
All right, what about easement rights? Is there assistance for easement rights?
there is. I'm not the easement guy, but I give you the information I have. We do have an easement program. It's called agriculture conservation easement program. And there's a different sign up and qualification that you have for easement. If you're interested in what we used to call our old wetland reserve program, it's still the same program. It just changed the name acronym. But we do have an easement program in our cities also.
That was currently just recently announced as well, so there's a cutoff date for that in the next 6 weeks or so. If you have any interest, we can get you in touch with our easement specialists. You can speak with them. Thank you.
Yes, and whatever county you're located in, the USDA office, they can give you information and assistance on that as well. I think. Yes, ma'am.
For this Act Now program, do you need to put in a private application, or if you have a current application in the office, are you good? Will that be considered, or do you have to put an application in for every bucket of funding that's available?
If you have a current application, we can still accept that. What you'll do is you'll contact your field office and say, hey, I've seen this announcement, I'm interested. And then they'll tell you whether or not you have a current application on file, if you need to sign a new application.
And where do you find these announcements? Say that, where, is there a website or is there?
They generally are put out in the media. So then our national website, we also have this sign up announcements on as well. So our national NRCS website, and now we have a national website, and then every state has a way that you can see where the state information are. So when you go to the national website, and you click on Arkansas, it'll show you everything that we have available for the state of Arkansas. But generally, all our local media outlets, newspapers, all the local state media is where you'll find the local announcements, besides our national website.
The Act Now is a really unique opportunity, but it's different. Our regular programs, as long as you get your application in by the cutoff date, we're fully considered. With Act Now, it's almost like first come, first served if you're eligible. So it's really important to get that application in as soon as the announcement comes out. So that's why we got to do a good job of letting people know what's coming before we open this up. So you just stay tuned in, it'll be really helpful.
And I got time for maybe one more question.
Yeah, I would just like to know, you mentioned the evening program, the fact that you all have that. Within that program, is there an educational piece on the Harris property situation? Because from what I understand, there's a lot of, segment ownership and all that.
Yeah.
You can't really take advantage of the evening program. So within that program, you mentioned you are highlighting. Is there an educational piece in there on that as well, or is there something separate?
The answer now. I will say, when you sign up for the easement program, if we go through the eligibility requirements, that's when you'll find out, whether or not, as far as heiress property, you'll find out the eligibility of if the farm qualifying. It does, it just, you may have to go through, how many of the steps of the heir property. And I'm not an heir property expert by no means, but we'll work with you as far as who needs to sign and go through that information as part of the eligibility. I didn't want to take up all the time from the other speakers, so I'm around. If you have any other questions. Thank you.
Next, we have Sherry. To Gregory. On CSP.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to cover the Conservation Stewardship Program, better known as CSP. And this what some would consider the our sister program to our EQIP or the Step Up. So the Conservation Stewardship Program is a program, it's structured for 5 years, these contracts, structured for 5 years. And this is where you have the opportunity to enhance what you are already doing on your land. So this is the opportunity to step up from the EQIP practices and go to what we call enhancements. And these are activities that actually enhance the conservation practices that you're already doing on your ground. We're going to cover overview of what is CSP application, planning, and implementation. So the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, or better known as the Farm Bill, authorized the natural NRCS to accept new CSP enrollments for the fiscal years of 2019 to 2023, and to offer an opportunity to current CSP contract participants to apply for renewal of their contract during the first half of the 5th year of their existing contract. The Conservation Stewardship CSP is one of NRCS's flagship programs, and this program, which can be considered a step up in conservation, provides participants with existing land and an activity payment, as well as a payment for implementing said conservation enhancements which improve upon the conservation already on the ground. The contracts, like I said, are structured for 5 years, and participants must enroll all the ground that they have effective control over for 5 years or more. Forestry are standalone contracts that can also include associated ag land, as well as cropland contracts can also include farmstead. So after the initial 5-year contract, if you are in good standing with the current contract, you can compete for an additional 5-year renewal contract just with that sole class that you originally got contracts with. So the application process for CSP is a little bit different as far as what is required. You have established farm records, which you will do over at FSA, and that will include your AD 1026, which is your highly erodible and wetland determination. You have your 902 and your AGR and your AGI and your farm and tract number. All of these will need to have been established over at FSA before you come over to NRCS to apply and be considered for funding. Copies of FSA maps that delineate land for enrollment. This will need to be a part of your application for CSP. We need you to provide all of the maps of the ground that you wish to enroll and delineate the ground that you wish to be enrolled. Now, once again, for CSP, you must have effective control over the land. That means 5 years. So my recommendation has always been, if you don't own the ground or don't have a long-standing contract with someone or a person that you trust, that you know your ground won't be snatched for you, then that ground is not the ground that you want to enroll in CSP.
FSA, the other thing we have to do, we have to be able to verify your control of land. And we use that using your FSA producer data farm reports. And we have updated that guidance to also include the FSA 578. The reason for the use of the 578 is because that shows what ground you actually certified and dictates that you absolutely have that definite control over that ground. And also, you must have had this ground or farmed the ground at least for a year prior to enrollment, because for CSP, you have to establish a management system, because that is one of the ways that you're evaluated on what you're already doing on the ground. You will need to complete a signed 1200 application. It's also called a CPA 1200. And you will also need to ensure that you have your vendor banking information completed, as well as if you are working with a consultant group or someone else, you will need to make sure that the power of attorney, a CPA or signatory authority has been designated. And if you're going to implement this program on lease ground, if you have are implementing something that has over a 1 year lifespan, you will need to have what is called a 1257, which gives you the permission to install from the landowner. You should always understand that you have a team at your side when you come to work with NRCS. So your team should include yourself, or you'll have your district conservationist, a soil conservationist, and depending on what it is that you need, you will have, you may have a technician. Some offices you may work with a forester, irrigation water management specialist, but you will have a team of technical experts at your disposal to assist you with developing a conservation plan that meets the resource concerns of your farm. So the application and constructing the timeline to classic funding, that looks like establishing your farm records with an FSA and ensuring they're in determined status would be step one. Turning in your application and maps of all the land to be enrolled would be step two, and ensuring that you have the 5-year effective control. Step three would be to set and complete a field visit with your local office team. And this is where they should come out and have a conversation with you, walk the land with you, and if you have certain issues that you want to point out, like erosion issues or things like that, you should be able to show them this so they can gain an interest of what you need. Step four, select the conservation activities that will address all of your resource concern. And then step five will be, once we have the ranking, we'll go to selection for pre-approvals and contracting. Now, you heard Corey talk about Act Now. Act Now, we're also going to utilize this in CSP this year. And it's the same step 1 through 4 steps of the last funding. But like Corey said, the difference is once that threshold is announced, once you get that application in, we can immediately, if you meet that threshold, move straight to contracting. So CSP opportunities for FY24 in Arkansas. Our opportunities, we have CSP renewals, which are open right now, and you would have turned this application in back in April if you are, and you would have already had a previous CSP contract. We have CSP Classic, which we are accepting applications for that until December the 8th. You have CSP IRA this year and CSP Organic, and we also have CSP Urban. So the funding paths for renewals is this year is going to be a traditional funding path. CSP Classic, we will offer Act Now funding, and we will also have IRA, Climate Smart opportunities in CSP. And so the types of contracts that you can have and the funding associated, so you can have an individual or an LLC. And remember, these are 5-year structures, so that qualifies you for up to $200,000 for the contract period. And once again, like I said, my advice is only around ground that you own or you have a long-term lease on. You have joint ventures and general partnerships. These are entitled to up to $400,000 for the 5-year period. Your cropland, like I said before, you have what's called the land payment. And so cropland is paid to you at $7.50 an acre for the enrollment of that crop grant. Forestry is also $7.50 an acre. Pasture is $3 an acre. Associated ag land, and that may be those little oddball pockets that you have on your ground that you're maybe not doing a whole lot with, those are 50 cents an acre. And then the same thing for farmstead. That we have some, and if you elect to install this practice enhancement with a year or more, like I said, you will need permission from the landowner. So you will need to make sure you have that. There is also a $350 core resource concern met at the time of application that is associated. So when your contract is evaluated, you have resource concerns, and that is part of CSP establishing that resource management system. So that could be erosion, that could be plant structure and plant health, point source pollution, and animal habitat. So for each resource concern that you need at the time of application, you will be paid $350 payment. And then the great exciting news for CSP is there is a new $4,000 minimum payment for a CSP contract. So that means that regardless of what you're doing, the least amount that you can get paid every year for implementing conservation practices on your ground is $4,000. And that's pretty exciting considering that it went from $1,500 to $4,000. Now, what we need from you is to partner with us. You don't have to be a big partner. You can partner with us as individuals. And what we need from you is we need you to apply. And once you apply, please keep an open line of communication with your field office and work with your DCs. Let us know what's going on with your contract, and keep us updated with any changing issues to whether it's your land or the structure of your operation, because all of these things can impact your contract. And implement conservation activities according to the 1155 or your schedule of operations, and turn in your documentation by deadlines to ensure timely payment. The conservation stewardship offers a great opportunity as far as the way that I see it to mitigate and help finances, where EQIP you can get paid throughout the year as you complete a practice. CSP is a nice thing to have at the end of the year as a final payment to round out your year. So you can have both of these programs at the same time as long as you are not duplicating the same practice on the same ground. So there's an opportunity here if you're managing and looking at it from a different perspective. So really have an influx of cash into your operation, both during the year and at the end of the year. So if anybody has any questions or comments or questions about CSP, but I highly encourage everybody, if you're really interested in conservation and that has been, take that time to work with your local office, spend some time with them, telling them about your operation and what you're interested in, and apply for CSP or any of our conservation programs. Thank you.
There's not any questions. We're gonna have our district director, Rod Woods, and also he will be speaking on behalf of our state director, Doris Washington.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rod Wood, not Doris. She could not be here today. So on behalf of her, I want to thank you all for your attendance today. You look like a very intelligent bunch. So I will not insult your intelligence on what I'm gonna speak on, because I really can't say a whole lot. September 30th was the end of our 2018 Farm Bill, which Farm Bills run typically 5 years. So really don't know what the new program is going to be. It's one of those things where the people who say they know, don't know. And the ones who saying they know, don't know. So that's basically what I'm here for. Now,
So what I'm warning you against is, if you hear something in the news, don't go jumping and making changes of what you want to do for 2024 based on that information, because it's not final. And it will not become final until Congress says so. So I'm gonna keep my comments to myself. I'm just gonna say until Congress says so. So with that, the other thing, I just started this job as a district director, basically September 1st. One of the requirements of being the district director is that I have to have loan approval authority. I have 33 years of being a county executive director at county offices, so I can speak on farm programs. I really can't speak to you much on farm loans. I know y'all just chopping at the bits for information on farm loans. I did bring some, but some of that stuff has changed. See, again, Congress will have to intercede on some of that. That could change as far as the limits. I mean, they're not gonna do away with the loan program and nothing like that. They might change some things as far as the limits, because we're in a time period of farming that $1 million isn't a whole lot of money when it comes to farming that. So, but our loan limits have not been keeping up with the inflation of farming. So that could be some change. And again, I don't know that for a fact, but currently I do have some fact sheets up here that shows our different loan categories and the maximum amount. The details of which are way more than what you put on the fact sheet, but at least that'll give you an example. Another program we have is, might be interested in lending resources, smaller farmers, farm storage facility loans. They cover, used to be just for, that program was just here for building grain fields and things of that nature. But now they've added a lot of stuff now that can help smaller resource farmers, that such as storage for cold storage for vegetables, storage shed for packing your vegetables, or coming out of the field, you need a place to get them out, store them, stack them. Hopper trucks, if you need a hopper bottom truck to haul your grain. Like I said, in this fact sheet will go into a whole lot more of different ice machines. You got greens or something like that you could keep cool. It's things that, like I said, a few years ago did not include in that. They've added those as possible things for you to finance. With that farm storage facility loans, we're talking normally what's called the micro loan, which has a $50,000 limit on it. Unless you got something big, I would go with the micro loan. It's a lot easier. It doesn't require as much equity or collateral to put up for, and the terms are a lot easier normally. So now, if you've got a project that you need more than 50, by all means, go to our farm information, see which one of those will do. As with any loan with us, one thing I learned on this job already is that loans can, I'm glad we can make them. Historically, they may not have been done the way it's intended, but I don't want that to discourage you from applying for a loan. I want you to take loans seriously, as far as, you know, we even though we're the government, we still want to do just like the bank when it comes time when it doesn't pay you. So, but we are trying to help, and using other USD resources, we're trying to provide it so that you can repay us back, and we don't have to. Contrary to what it says, the government don't want your land because it's a problem when we take it, and that's what we're dealing with now with the 22007. Taking land from people causes problems. So why not head that off by helping you keep your land, helping you farm your land? And that's what, as far as now that I'm on this job in my district, I will see to that being the case as best of my ability. My district starts in Pulaski County, Lone Oak, Monroe, Prairie, Woodruff, Jackson, Phillips, and Lee. Just not getting where I can add that without looking at a piece of paper, but those are the ones. Those are the ones that I'm seeing over. So if you have a problem in those offices, they'll come to me and I play referee as best I can. I will be fair, but I'll be firm on on that, because these rules and regulations that we have for these programs, they protect me and they protect you. And we want to make sure that you are protected just as well as because the government gonna take care of the government. And I can say that for being working there for over 30-some years. So, but we want to protect you too, as best we can, and that's what my objective will be. Some things I heard. One question was, I noticed we do have all these two programs we talked about. The term social disadvantage farming. Everyone in here needs to go, if you haven't already, you need to fill out a form called the CDC 860. Now, you go in that county office where your farm is located. What that is a declaration. It's not an application, it's a declaration. Because I can no longer look at Mr. Berkeley here and say that he's a black man. He has to tell me, he has to declare that to me. And he declares it on the 860 as one of the other criteria that Corey said something about. One of them is limited resource, other one's veteran, social disadvantage. You declare that on there. You don't have to declare all of them, you just have to declare one of them. I always say take the easy route on that. If you black, if you're born black, you're not black. Take that and you're done. But if you limited resources, hopefully over the years, 10 years now, you may not be limited anymore. You might be prospering so well that we hope that you are. You no longer, and you have to constantly declare that. But once you declare that you, whatever race or whatever sex or whatever, that's done. Pretty much. Pretty much. And everybody in here can, every one of you can fill out that 860. That's 860. Every one of you can. The CCP 860. Now, don't call the card and say I want to apply. It's not an application. It's a declaration. Once we put it in the system, especially like that, it affects you in other programs. In our programs at FSA, we use it in Corey's and Sheriff's programs, use that same form. So there's no reason for you to wait. You don't have to even have an application yet. You can just come in there and do the 860 and get it in there. Get a receipt for service and you should be all right. Other thing, real quickly on air property. FSA is in charge of establishing the ownership record and farm number. You gotta have a farm number to participate in any of our programs. Got to. Doesn't matter. There's no minimum size farm. There's no maximum size farm. I've done farm numbers for city lots. It's nothing. Key to it is who owns that land. Problem is with air property, no one really owns the land. So you either have a situation where all the heirs have to sign everything, or you can't participate. Now, FSA will not settle any, that's not my job to settle any ownership problems as far as controversy of who owns what. And I've heard them all over the years. I've been farming this land and my uncle, dad gave it to, and I'm not disputing that but I wasn't there. But even if I was there, I cannot sit there now and feel, okay, you own this land. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it because it's illegal for number one. So I push it back on the landowner or the farmer to go and get his land straightened out legally. Now, one shortcut on that, it's hard to, if it's been that way for decades, it's hard to go back now because the state's closed. And you gotta go back and go through the petition, I'm not an attorney, and you petition to reopen the estate and all that kind of stuff. That's a way to do it, but there's a way around it in a way for Farm Service Agency. There is a form that is not administered by the Farm Service Agency, nor is it our form. It's called an affidavit of heirship that you can use to help clear this out. Now, even at that though, the affidavit of heirship basically saying, as far as we know, these are the heirs of that property. You have to get a witness, at least two, from disinterested party. Can't be somebody who has an interest in the land, saying that you can get in problems with, well, let's, me and you get together, and we'll get the land. So it has to be somebody that's going to sign off on that form. And you have to list everybody who, all the heirs on that form, on that. Now that, even if that could be a problem, because some of these people might live in Chicago, California, and you know, but they have to be listed on there. On top of that, if they listed on there, we consider them owner. So therefore, we list everyone on there as an owner. So therefore, I'm gonna need the name, address, and social security of everybody's owner. That is a shortcut, and then depending on the situation, that is a shortcut around having to get the state reopened and all that kind of stuff.
What about lease?
Problem the lease, if it's air property, who has authority to sign a contract, a lease contract? So if you don't own the land, how can you enter into a contract?
Well, I'm saying, what if one of the owners, one of the heirs can they start leasing?
Who gave him authority to do, and I'm not being smart, please don't understand, I'm not being, I'm just telling you, I'm not being, trying to be ignorant. It's just that, okay, if one person on there saying that everybody on this row on this land here, first the one who's been, Thomas here, has been one managing it, one seeing after and everything. Who gave him the authority to enter into a lease agreement with anybody? Legally, he has no authority to do so. So, yes, a lease might be, y'all might have a written down lease. It might be written in both areas, but it's illegal for us to accept that as, because he doesn't have the authority to do so. So therefore, you still have to ownership straighten out to where it says recognize all four of them as owners. Then you bring me a lease with all four of them signature owners. Then we can move on with it. Yes.
What if, the property has been, is managed together under like an LLC or a trust?
Well, then if that's the case, there shouldn't be a deed or a trust. I mean, there should be a deed in that trust or LLC's name, so we don't have a problem.
Okay.
Because you gotta have land can only be, and again, I'm not an attorney, and I'm getting into, don't want to get too deep in water. But, no, that's okay, I'm used to be part. Land can only be transferred legally either through a will or through a deed. If you don't have a will, you can't say, well, granddad said that he's leaving this such and such. You have to have a will. So if he dies, what's called intestate, without a will, then it has to go through a probate system. Yeah, for us to get that straight out. Deed is just a deed. I mean, it's just that. If you can go to the courthouse and bring me a copy of the deed with the names of the people that you saying own it, is on there, no problem. But if you bring me a deed with people and everybody on that deed is dead, we got a problem with that. Okay? All right. Yeah.
You can go to like the same place, that's a farm number.
Yeah, thank you. And then once it's in the system, it's in there for wherever you got land from here all the way up to Alaska. It's in there.
One last question. Can you apply for a microloan and want to refinance a land like the USDA? Can you apply for both?
Well, we got the one and maybe.
I'm not a loan officer. Prep with that, I'm saying so. But I will say, yes, you can. And I wish I had a loan officer here, because like I said, I'm pretty sure you can. But again, since I'm not certified in that area, I cannot answer that with all certainty, but I do know people. All I can say is I know people that ask that same question that have done. So I'm gonna say you can. Okay, was there something else?
Before we break, can I make a quick comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, hi, I'm Jill Bishop. I'm one of the deputy directors for agricultural statistics. Y'all may not know us, but we're a USDA entity as well. We're talking a lot about socially disadvantaged farmers and about farm bills. So I want to say thank you all, because the data collection period for the Census of Agriculture has just ended. So I'm going to say thank you, because I'm hoping that with the ag producers here, especially those that are minorities, I'm going to say thank you and hope you report, because data collection is over. And the reason I'm saying that is because, as Rod mentioned, we don't have a farm bill at the moment. The data from that Census of Ag is going to be the data used to create that farm bill. The data from the Census of Ag is also going to be the data that is going to utilize the behind the scenes of the pots at the county level for those socially disadvantaged farmers. So I hope all of you farm producers completed your Census of Ag that you could be counted, because those numbers are going to come out. And if you are not represented, then you will not be represented for the next 5 years when you go into your county office and are looking for those funds. So thank you in advance for your report.
One more thing you'll see, you've asked, how do I get information on all that stuff? Because it's a lot of information, all three, both agencies. We're not even going, I didn't even talk about rural development. There is a website called farmers.gov that you can get a wealth of information. Back these same fact sheets that I'm leaving up here, you can get them off right there. It requires access to the computer. If you have an email address, you can even have stuff emailed to you. You don't have to use your own if you're don't care about using computer systems. I guarantee you got a daughter or a granddaughter or somebody who has an email address. Send it, send Papa when I have something showing. When you see something that has USD on it, let Papa know. We'll print it out like that. We don't care who's we'll send it to any email address you put in that form. Let us know. Also, our county office is called Gov Delivery. When you sign up for the farm, they'll ask you a question. You give us your email address. We send out monthly newsletters that has information about CFP, EQIP, and our own. So those are sent out to you. But you gotta have an email address. Again, don't have to be yours. It can be daughter, grandpa, granddaughter, whatever.
What was the name of it?
Farmers.gov.
What was the second thing you said?
Gov Delivery. Now the Gov Delivery, you don't sign it up online. You'll have to go to the county office, and when you give them your basic information, name, address, and social security number, they'll ask you for your email address, and then we'll enter it. Everything that's in there. Now you can decline. You give us an email address and then say you don't want the email. We get tired of those web emails. You know, you get a bunch of them. But if you say you do want to accept email, we'll automatically send it to you every month. Automatically. You don't even have to ask for it.
CPA 60, can that be done online as well?
CPA 60, 860. No. The CC, I might have been talking fast, but I'm trying to make it. CCC 860. Yeah, ACC 860. Yeah, any FSA office, you say that, don't know what that is. So it's got a long name on it, but basically it's where you declare. Yes, ma'am.
If family members that own land and their property and want to get a quick deed.
Quick claim deed.
Yeah.
I don't like quick claim. Because, and the reason, not being funny, the The reason is anybody can go just about to a quick claim deed. There's no title search involved. So, because I've had people, just like you're saying, one side of the family, I didn't know they was arguing. They came in, bought a quick claim deed. Well, the other side of the family, they went about a quick claim deed and they came and gave you the same one on the same, with different names. Next thing I know, they both mad at me because I done signed that one up. And then I said, well, I can't sign that one because they be here. That's all they in. Well, I know. That's why I like to claim these personally and administratively. They are a legal instrument. I just don't, be careful. Be careful with them. I'm not gonna say I wouldn't take it, but be careful with it. Be careful. I can do a whole thing on just air property by themselves as far as all the different scenarios. The thing I hate worst about it is, unless you one of those that everybody in the air, all y'all live right there in the county, you can do the affidavit airship by yourself. Otherwise, I really recommend you let an attorney do it for you. But that's money. And I understand. And who's gonna pay the attorney fee? People who's gonna benefit. Ones who in Chicago, California, I ain't paying that. I didn't tell you to go. That's what you're gonna get. I didn't tell you to go down there to the office. So why should I pay this for legal people? I understand all that, but that's something you have to be faced with. You're faced with when you go with that affidavit of airship. But like I said, it's all y'all still living right there and y'all getting along real good. That's a quick way to get around having to go back to the legal system.
I'm gonna ask kind of dumb question.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
If mama got 3 daughters, and the 3 daughters got 3 daughters, and they daughters got 3 daughters, are all those there?
Well, it depends who originally on the land. If the mom still living, it's her land. Probably if the mom passed away.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh, then yeah, all them, and all, one, and they, yeah, that's why every property, I had one in Jefferson County that had over 47 people in it. And they formed the LLC and all like that. I don't know how they got them all to agree, but they did. So that's why nobody likes, it's not just USDA, that's everywhere. You go to a bank, say air property, they can roll their eyes, like I do. But they know that's a problem. So it's not just a USDA problem. Now there's a air lending program that I'm not gonna get into because I don't have time. And number two, we still been, it's one of those things we put in 2018 farm bill, but we really didn't start trying to roll that thing out for like 2020, and that was pandemic year. So we don't have everything in place quite, but there is a way, that's a program that will help you straighten out your they'll loan you money to help you straighten out their property situation. But we don't have an approved lender in Arkansas yet. We're working on it, but they're not approved yet. So with that, I'm going to cut it off because we're past that. So I'll be around. Here's my fact sheet. I'll be around for most afternoon. If you got any more questions, just holler at me. Thank you all.
We want to thank this wonderful team here. They are ready to serve, and we can move on to the next room here. But as they said, get to know your offices in the town you live in, and if you don't know, just
Hello, everyone.
USDA.
We're getting ready to start in a few minutes, and we're gonna have everybody line up. Those that want us to bring them a plate, I will bring a plate to your table so that you don't have to get up, okay? But we're getting ready to start lunch in a few.
But find out where they are, get to know them, especially NRCS. As they said, you have to sit down with them multiple times with your contract, whatever. FSA, you got to have a farm number, as they always say. All has said here. So make sure you stop by, even if you don't
get in the program, but get to know them. Know who they are. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I know everyone is busy and trying to get their look, but while we're in this moment, we're gonna stop and have Dr. Carr to do our luncheon prayer for us.
Praise the Lord, we do thank you for the friendships that are formed here in the boards and for the fellowship and food that we ask that you would utilize to bless our bodies. And it's in your name that we pray and we say, amen.